What if I told you that the cheapest Tesla you can buy has a battery that will outlast the expensive one? What if I told you that a technology originally invented in a university lab in the 1990s, using iron and phosphate, two of the most boring, most abundant elements on Earth, is quietly revolutionizing electric vehicles? And what if I told you that most Tesla owners don't even know which battery they have under their car? Stick around, because today we're going deep on LFP batteries, lithium iron phosphate. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why these batteries are lasting 3 times longer than the ones inside long-range Teslas, why every major automaker on the planet is scrambling to adopt them, and why the cheapest EV on the lot might actually be the smartest buy you've ever made. Okay? Before we get into the crazy science of why LFP batteries last so long, we need to build a foundation. Because here's the thing, that when most people say lithium battery, they're speaking in the vaguest possible terms. That's like saying, I drive a car. Like, what kind of car? A smart car? A semi-truck? A Formula One racer? Lithium-ion is a family of batteries. And inside that family, there are very different chemistries, and they are not created equal. Let me introduce you to the 3 main players in the EV world right now. First, NCA, nickel cobalt aluminum oxide. This is what Tesla used in its early days and still uses in many long-range and performance models. NCA packs a serious punch in terms of energy density. Translation: you get a lot of range out of a relatively small, lightweight battery. That's why Tesla Model S owners could brag about 350+ miles on a charge. NCA is the high-performance athlete of the battery world. Blazing fast, seriously powerful. But, and this is a big but, it runs hot. It degrades under stress. And it's got a thermal runaway threshold of just 150 degrees Celsius. That means if that battery gets too hot, from aggressive charging, from a hot climate, from just being pushed hard over years, things can go wrong, fast. Second, NMC, nickel manganese cobalt oxide. This is the evolution. Automakers like GM, BMW, and the current Tesla long-range vehicles use NMC. It's a little more stable than NCA, a little longer lasting, and it hits thermal runaway at around 210 degrees Celsius, a meaningful improvement. The energy density is still fantastic, range is excellent, performance is great, but it still has cobalt in it. And cobalt is expensive. Cobalt has a messy supply chain tied to some genuinely troubling mining operations in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And cobalt-based batteries still have a ceiling on how many times you can charge and discharge them before they start degrading noticeably. Typical cycle life for NMC? Somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 full charge cycles before capacity drops to 80%. Third, LFP, lithium iron phosphate. No cobalt, no nickel, iron and phosphate. 2 of the most abundant, most stable materials on Earth. And this is where the story gets really interesting. Why LFP lasts so much longer. Alright, I promise I'm not going to turn this into a chemistry lecture, but we need to understand why LFP batteries last so much longer. Because once you get it, you'll never look at battery specs the same way again. It all comes down to 4 things: structure, voltage, heat, and chemistry. Reason number 1, the olivine crystal structure. Inside every battery, the cathode, the positive electrode, is where the magic happens. Lithium ions flow in and out of the cathode as you charge and discharge, and the shape of the cathode material matters enormously. NMC and NCA batteries use what's called a layered structure. Picture a stack of atomic pancakes. Lithium ions slide in and out between the layers. It works brilliantly, at first, but over hundreds of cycles those layers shift, they crack, they develop microfractures, and once that happens, fewer and fewer lithium ions can fit inside. Capacity drops. Your range shrinks. LFP, on the other hand, uses an olivine structure, a 3-dimensional crystalline framework. Think of it like a rigid, reinforced cage rather than a flimsy stack of pancakes. When lithium ions flow in and out of an LFP cathode, the structure barely changes shape at all. It's rock solid. Cycle after cycle after cycle, the cage holds. This single difference in crystal geometry is foundational to why LFP batteries survive so many more charge cycles without significant capacity loss. Reason number 2. The iron phosphate bond is absurdly strong. Here's where the chemistry gets spicy. In cobalt-based batteries, the cathode relies on cobalt-oxygen bonds to hold its structure together. The problem? Under stress, heat, overcharging, short circuits, those bonds can break. When they break, oxygen is released, and when oxygen meets heat and electrolyte in a confined space, you get thermal runaway. Battery fires. The nightmare scenario. LFP uses iron phosphate oxygen bonds, and those bonds are significantly stronger than cobalt oxygen bonds. So when you stress an LFP battery, when you fast charge it repeatedly, when it sits in a hot car, when you're pushing it hard on a road trip, the structure resists. The oxygen stays where it belongs. The temperature stays controlled. This is why LFP batteries have a thermal runaway threshold of 270 degrees Celsius, compared to 210 for NMC and 150 for NCA. That's not a small gap. That's nearly double the heat tolerance of an NCA battery. In practical terms, LFP batteries are dramatically safer, dramatically more resistant to the kind of gradual heat damage that silently kills battery capacity over time, and dramatically less likely to fail in a worst-case scenario. Reason number 3. Lower operating voltage equals less stress. Here's one that most people completely overlook. Every time you charge a lithium-ion battery to 100%, you're applying voltage stress to the cathode material. High voltage accelerates chemical reactions inside the battery, and not the good kind. It speeds up electrolyte decomposition. It causes lithium plating. It increases internal resistance over time. NMC batteries operate at a higher voltage per cell than LFP. So every single time an NMC or NCA battery gets charged to 100%, it's experiencing more electrochemical stress than an LFP battery doing the same thing. LFP operates at a lower nominal voltage, around 3.2 volts per cell, compared to about 3.6 to 3.7 volts for NMC. That lower voltage means less stress on the materials every single cycle. Less stress, accumulated over thousands of cycles, adds up to dramatically less degradation. This is also why Tesla has different charging recommendations for its 2 battery types. For long-range and performance models with NMC batteries, Tesla says, charge to 80 to 90% for daily use. Don't charge to 100% unless you need it. The high voltage is damaging. For standard range models with LFP, Tesla says, charge to 100% regularly. In fact, they recommend it at least once a week for calibration purposes, because LFP can handle it. The chemistry is that stable. Reason number 4. Cycle life. The numbers don't lie. So what does all of this mean in terms of actual real-world lifespan? NMC batteries, typically rated for 1,000 to 2,000 full charge cycles before hitting 80% capacity. In real-world use, and that might translate to somewhere around 150,000 to 300,000 miles of driving before you notice meaningful range loss, depending on how hard you push it. LFP batteries. Multiple studies show a cycle life of 3,000 to over 8,000 full charge cycles before hitting 80% capacity. In real-world use, we're talking potential lifespans of 500,000 to 600,000 plus miles. To put that in perspective, the average American drives about 15,000 miles per year. A 500,000-mile battery lifespan means that battery could theoretically last over 33 years of average driving. You will be driving a flying car before that battery gives up. who's using LFP and why this isn't theoretical. This isn't some niche lab experiment. LFP batteries are already in millions of vehicles on the road right now, and the biggest names in the industry are all moving in this direction. Tesla was actually one of the early mainstream adopters of LFP for EVs. In October 2021, they announced a switch to LFP batteries for all standard range Model 3 and Model Y vehicles. The change started in China-manufactured vehicles and rolled out to the United States in 2022. Why? Cost, longevity, and safety. Ford announced in 2023 that European Mustang Mach-Es and select F-150 Lightning markets would switch to LFP packs. The standard range Mach-E in the United States already has LFP on the road. Rivian announced a shift to LFP for their electric delivery vans, the ones they're building for Amazon, and plans to transition their standard range trucks as well. GM said the revamped Chevrolet Bolt EV would move to LFP to cut costs and improve longevity. BMW announced LFP adoption starting in 2025. Are you seeing the pattern? Every major automaker, all moving the same direction. And the reason isn't just lifespan, it's also cost. NCA battery cells cost around $120 per kilowatt hour to produce. NMC runs about $113 per kilowatt hour. LFP as low as $98.50 per kilowatt hour. That's a significant cost reduction, which means cheaper EVs for consumers and better margins for manufacturers. And remember, no cobalt, no nickel. That means a cleaner supply chain, lower carbon emissions during production, roughly 15 to 25% lower than NMC batteries, and far fewer of the ethical concerns that have plagued lithium-ion battery manufacturing. Real data from real Teslas. Now let's talk about what the actual data shows, because this is where it gets really interesting. The team at Recurrent, a company that tracks real-world EV battery performance across hundreds of thousands of vehicles, has been collecting data on Tesla Model 3s with both LFP and non-LFP batteries. And their findings are eye-opening. First finding, LFP Model 3s appear to achieve a higher percentage of their EPA-rated range than non-LFP models. Tesla has been widely criticized for inflating range estimates. Recurrent developed something called Real Range to show what cars actually achieve in typical conditions. And the standard range LFP Model 3s, they're actually tracking closer to their EPA numbers than the long-range models. Second finding, peak performance temperature differs between chemistries. LFP batteries seem to hit peak range at around 70 degrees Fahrenheit, while NCA packs peak closer to 60 degrees. That's a meaningful difference. It suggests LFP batteries might actually be better suited to warmer climates. And speaking of climate, real-world data confirms what we'd expect based on the chemistry. LFP batteries hold up better in heat. If you live somewhere that regularly hits 90, 100, 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and your car sits outside, LFP is your friend. The stronger iron phosphate bonds resist heat degradation in ways that cobalt-based batteries simply can't match. Now, to be completely fair, because we're doing science here, not sales, let's talk about the one major area where LFP falls behind: the cold weather problem. I'd be lying to you if I pretended LFP was perfect. It's not. And if you live in Canada, Norway, Minnesota, or anywhere that sees temperatures plunge below minus 20 degrees Celsius, that's minus 4 Fahrenheit, you need to hear this. LFP batteries are more sensitive to extreme cold than NMC batteries. And here's why. LFP's crystalline structure, while incredibly stable under heat and stress, has a downside at low temperatures: slow lithium-ion diffusion. In plain English, when it's really cold, the lithium ions inside an LFP battery move sluggishly. They can't flow in and out of the cathode quickly. That means poor conductivity, slow charging, and meaningful range loss. Reviewers and real-world testers in icy climates report that LFP Model 3s can lose a few additional percentage points of range compared to NCA models under the same conditions, even with preconditioning the battery. And if you get to a fast charger in freezing temperatures without having pre-warmed your battery first, you might wait significantly longer for the car to warm the pack before it allows fast charging to begin. NMC batteries handle extreme cold noticeably better. They maintain better capacity retention and lower internal resistance in sub-freezing conditions. So here's the honest breakdown. Hot climate, high mileage, cost-conscious, Aero. LFP is a no-brainer. Cold climate, need maximum range, Aero. NMC, long range, is probably the smarter pick. Most automakers are currently limiting LFP to standard range, non-performance trims, and this is one of the reasons why. For long-range vehicles that need every mile of range and operate across diverse climates, cobalt-based chemistries still have advantages. But for the average daily driver, LFP is increasingly hard to argue against. What this means for you as a buyer. Okay, practical implications. You're shopping for an EV. What does all of this actually mean for your decision? First, know what battery you're getting. This sounds obvious, but most buyers have no idea. When you're looking at a Tesla Model 3, you need to know, is this the standard range RWD with an LFP battery, or is this a long-range AWD with NMC? They look identical from the outside. The difference in the battery underneath will affect how you charge, how you maintain it, and how long it lasts. Second, if you're buying standard range, appreciate what you have. The standard range Tesla Model 3 or Model Y is often dismissed as the cheap option. But that LFP battery underneath? It's genuinely remarkable technology. It might outlast the long-range model. It's safer. It can be charged to 100% regularly without penalty. For most people who drive under 250 miles on any given day, it's arguably the smarter long-term investment. Third, change how you charge. If you have LFP, charge to 100% regularly. That's fine. Tesla actually recommends it. The chemistry handles it beautifully. If you have NMC or NCA, be disciplined about staying between 20% and 80 to 90% for daily driving. Charging to 100% every day is quietly damaging your battery. Save 100% for road trips when you actually need it. Fourth, think about resale and total cost of ownership. A battery that lasts 500,000 miles versus 200,000 miles matters enormously when you think about the car's full lifespan. Fewer replacements, lower depreciation risk from battery degradation, more value retained over time. The LFP battery isn't just good for today, it's good for the next owner, and the owner after that.